Good afternoon, friends. It's Friday, July 24th, the end of a week, and time for a reflection. Well, here's a lesson in patience and realizing that we are all just a little too stressed out right about now. Some of you may know that the city of Vacaville has been doing road surfacing. Well, our neighborhood is one of the ones that's getting resurfaced. It began about 2 weeks ago when the crew started putting that gravelly stuff on the road. And when we came home from our trip to Yosemite, it caught in the tire tracks and flipped up into the fenders, and you could hear the clink, clink, clink. And some of the gravel, of course, ended up in the driveway, only to be swept out later. Then the crew put up those famous no parking signs to let everyone know that more work was being done. We also got a calendar of sorts telling us which streets in the area would be closed for the day as they were putting on that surface sealing. Now, none of this is much of a problem for Joan or me, as we're usually out of the house by about 8 o'clock anyway to start work, and we don't park on the street anyway. We've got a nice driveway to park in. But some of our neighbors have more cars than driveway space. So we gave permission to one of our neighbors to park 3 of his vehicles in our driveway on the day of paving, and he was glad for that parking lot. All this seems fine, but the issue I discovered took place on a day before our street was surfaced. A significant street, California Street, leading into our development, had no parking signs put up there on Friday afternoon. It said no parking for 3 days, the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. The streets needed to be parking free. Now, I wondered what that meant. Would it really take them 3 days to surface the street? Well, I discovered on Monday that the street was being done literally in 3 stages, thus allowing us to drive to our neighborhoods. When I left Monday morning for golf, everything was as normal. It was too early for them to have started working. And the road was wide open. Not thinking about it as I came home after golf, I took my normal route home, and I started to make the turn onto California Street and clearly saw that the right-hand 1/3 of the street was closed off, cones lining the way. There were cones also on the second third of the street, indicating where you were supposed to be driving. Now you had to be aware that traffic was only happening in the 2/3 portion of the left-hand side of the road. A little unusual, but certainly doable. Now, as I'm approaching Madison Avenue, the street that I turn on to get to Midvale, I noticed that the car in front of me is screeching to a halt. And I wondered what was going on. Well, I stopped a little further back. In fact, I stopped far enough back that a side street named Tulare was between me and the car in front of me. It's when I noticed that there was a car pulling out of Madison Avenue and pulling out pretty quickly, probably not bothering to stop for the stop sign, California rolling stop and all. But more importantly for the driver on California Street, it was coming pretty close to that driver. In fact, it knocked over a cone or 2. The horns blared, the fists shook, the fingers pointed. I was happy to see that if only the one finger was being used, so too was the whole hand. And there was a heated exchange. Now, I've stopped, as I say, back a little bit further, and a car is coming up behind me and tooting his horn as if I'm supposed to move forward. Well, I'm a little bit anxious about what's happening, and my intuition is saying, wait. I'm glad I did. Because as the Madison Avenue car pulls past the California car, still shaking his head and finger pointing, he then guns the engine and pulls right in front of me and heads down Tulare, driving probably faster than 25 miles an hour. I was a little bit concerned. And as he drove by, his finger was still moving and his jaw was flapping. I can only imagine the words that were being filled up by that car. Now, as he zipped past me, and might have hit me if I had been in the wrong place at the right time, there was this little doot doot from the guy behind me who looked and went, and then mouthed, "Wow," and "Sorry." He was trying to let me know that I had been smarter, I had been wiser, I had been patient-er, more patient, really. Is this just normal frustration at our roads being altered as the work happens? Or is it also a reaction to the built-up frustration that this has been our life for the last 4.5 to 5 months now? Are we just boiling over because we can't do all of those normal things we used to do? To be perfectly honest, as I was sitting there, part of Sue's sermon ran through my mind. You know that portion where she talks about being patient with one another? I was trying to be patient. I also thought about Jesus' statement about loving one another even when the other behaves badly. As he zipped in front of me and headed off, as I got my sorry from the person behind me, I thought of just being calm, just wanting to behave and to care for others. I also must admit that as he zipped past me up Tulare, I said, "Thank you, God. Thank you for giving me an intuition, but more importantly, thanks for making me listen to it today." Patience. It's not just what doctors need. We all need it. We all need to take a breath, a deep breath, and then another one, and then another, and just pause. Yes, life hasn't been normal for the last 4.5 months. Stress levels have been higher than normal, but life hasn't been normal. Now, I am glad that the road work in my neighborhood is almost all finished. One more road needs to be done. I can hardly wait to see what happens when that goes on. One more road work for patience, and then we can get back to our normal driving habits. Parking, like we've always done before. But I suspect, in a sense, that our normal lives will not be back to normal too soon. It will take more than just another day of pavement. It will take time. And we need to be patient with one another. Thank you, Sue Gibbs, for reminding me, as you preached to me on Sunday, that I also need to be patient. I also need to pause to give someone else a chance to make a wider turn. Extra space to see more clearly. That extra moment to allow life to happen in front of us instead of crashing into us. Patience. Take your deep breath. And then another one. And I'll see you on Sunday as we worship at 9:30. Remember, of course, until then and even beyond then, wash your hands 20 seconds at a time, couple, 3 times a day. Continue to use hand lotion to make your hands nice and soft for others to touch. Those in your family, of course, not strangers, by the way. Stay home, of course, if you're sick or not feeling well, especially with coughs and respiratory issues. Wear your mask, not just for yourself, but to protect others as well. Practice that important physical distancing. Stay 6 feet apart from others that you don't know. Get as close as you can to the family members that live in your household. Hug them and love on them. And of course, as Sergeant Esterhaus reminds me, be careful out there.